You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host, Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts, Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
You are listening to The Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, July 24 show. No Keelan or co-host today, so I'm doing it all on my own. Keelan, if you're listening to the whole show, I hope you're feeling better. You can also listen to our podcast, Facebook premiere show, or you can catch our show on our YouTube channel. For more information on any of the events that I have, please go to tinamitchellevents.com. I am your host, Tina Mitchell. We bring into studio each week the best of the best experts in our local market, everything regarding your money. We are here to help you in today's economy. And now in studio, we have Lora, Clothier, Biojunction Sports Therapy, Healthcare during COVID, right here on 1150 AM KKNW. Lora, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tina. It's great to do this. This is fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. So really excited to talk with you about healthcare, what's going on in healthcare, how it's been impacted by COVID. So what have you been, has been your biggest challenge of owning a healthcare facility during COVID? Because I know it's a lot different for you than it is a lot of other industries.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's been so much. I would say initially, we were shut down almost completely from, I think, March to end of April. It was about 6 weeks where we could only see patients who were deemed emergency or via telehealth. So we were seeing about a third as many patients as we normally did. We are navigating unknown territory. None of us had ever been through a pandemic before. And the Department of Health, the American Physical Therapy Association, everybody was trying to figure out how to do this. And initially, it didn't seem like it was going to be as long as it turned out to be. But once we got going again, it was figuring out how to keep patients and staff safe, how to perform care that is necessary and definitely necessary now that we're a year and a half into it. There were lots of surgeries that got put on hold initially, but now those are all being done and people are catching up and we're busy. So now it's managing all the patients, the influx of patients.
Yeah, well, one thing that I hope people took away from COVID, and my biggest challenge in my time management business efficiency coach is helping people make change. And it's my second mind shift, embracing the hard road, which represents change. And hopefully in COVID, something to take away is proving that you can change and you can change very quickly, because look at how many businesses overnight had to make change. Now your change much different, because literally being shut down and not knowing what was going to happen in the future to your business added a lot of emotional stress that a lot of us in our businesses did not have to go through. So Lora, what have you has been challenges in being a health care provider during COVID? What are some of those challenges that you've seen?
Right. So more on the personal side of contact with patients. I would say that there was a lot of worrying about keeping your patients safe, worrying about bringing something home to your family. My husband's 10 years older than me. My mom was actually in a nursing home and did contract COVID from a healthcare worker and passed away 3 days later. It was super
bad. I'm so sorry.
So having to say goodbye over FaceTime when she was in a coma, I actually felt so much for the healthcare provider that was holding up the iPad in full hazmat gear. So it's been a lot of stress on the healthcare providers, because where other people were able to maybe take time off or work from home and things got a little easier, things did not get easy as a provider. So huge relief when we were able to get the vaccine in January. For me, it just lifted this huge cloud, this weight off of my shoulders. And I really feel it for all the wonderful providers, surgeons, chiropractors, massage therapists, everybody that has contact with patients to help people get better. Has been through a lot. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who has stepped up and in a really scary and uncharted time, been really selfless. So that's what I think.
Yeah, well, what a great shout out to all of the providers out there, and I definitely second that. And yeah, not going through a loss of anybody. And again, I'm sorry for your loss, Laura. And yeah, what if such a different experience not being able to go through that process that we normally would in being there physically. And so I haven't lost anybody that is close to me in COVID. And then at the same time, going through such the changes and the shutdown of your business at the same time. Yeah, it's been definitely a challenging space for a lot of people. So have there been any unexpected benefits with adjusting to treating patients during COVID that you've seen, Laura?
There has. Surprisingly, I think the biggest one was we were all immediately forced to learn telehealth.
Yeah.
So we didn't know what we were doing. And insurance companies before that really didn't cover it, which I think is going to change going forward. I know some insurances have gone back to reverting where they don't cover telehealth services, but some have decided to keep it. And I think that's a huge benefit because sometimes you have a patient who their car breaks down and they can't get to PT and they just wanted to go over their home exercise program with you. Now that provides us an opportunity to do so. Or you have patients who maybe are immunocompromised because they have a knee injury, but they're also in chemotherapy and you can minimize contact. So there's a huge benefit there. And I really hope that insurances continue to allow coverage for that in situations where we can obviously justify it. The other thing was that it accelerated our transition at our clinic to being more paperless and trying to think of like how to cut down contact with patients. We made some changes. We had some downtime in a way to revamp our website, improve processes, clean out, the drawers from patients that hadn't been in for a long time. So there was some benefit to all that. I feel like I'm glad that's behind us now and ready to move forward with businesses as normal as much as possible.
Yeah, so it's and again, like you said, that you've gotten through it now, and it's nice to be able to go back and look at some of the benefits in the industry. Obviously, there's so much more convenience that's been brought in, and again, like you said, making changes and having that time to be able to level up on the efficiency of your business. Yeah, I love it because you can do virtual training now where there was a never virtual personal training. So I don't have to go to the gym with my personal trainer. He just visits me in the morning on FaceTime. So yeah, lots of conveniences that have came out of it that hopefully we continue to utilize as we move forward. So has there been different types of injuries that you have seen during the past year and a half because of COVID?
Absolutely. So if you think about what we've all been doing, a lot more time at home on a computer, Zoom meetings. We're seeing a lot of postural and repetitive stress type injuries, especially in kids. If you think about the average kid being in class, they're looking around, different things are taking their attention, and instead they're staring at a small screen, barely moving. So we have a lot of that. And then also activity wise, having people go from sitting and doing nothing to going back to playing basketball. We're seeing a lot of like ACL injuries because they aren't conditioned for those sports. So
yeah, so if you're getting back out there in the sports, I guess a shout out from Laura is take it a little bit easy and let your body get into that and adjust it. Yeah, I think the common thing for most with COVID that has been a disadvantage when it comes to our health is just the extra pounds and things that we're putting on because we're not getting out there and a lot of the time not really even doing much walking because we're literally just stuck here back to back in Zoom meetings. So what have you observed among your employees and patients dealing with the pressure of COVID?
Yeah, there's stress levels have been high. I think a lot of healthcare providers we're empaths by nature. We take on what we feel around us. There's been a lot more mental health problems that I've seen in my patients. Whenever we do an intake sheet, they're always checking off any health problems. And I would say 7 out of 10 patients are checking off anxiety and depression. which is way more than that used to be. And I also know from providers we refer to that it's very difficult to find an available mental health practitioner at the moment. They're all extremely busy. But I think, like you said, weight gain has led to maybe some depression. There's been a lot of fear behavior, a lot of grief and loss.
Yeah.
All of those things, when you're injured, like physically injured, your ability to get better from that injury is also dependent on your ability to hold like so much on your plate. So if you have a back problem and you're going through a divorce, your back pain is going to be worse.
Absolutely.
It's just body can only take so much. So we're seeing really complicated patients.
Yeah. Yeah. So sad. Your emotional state definitely affects your health state for sure, and the recovery process of whatever you might be dealing with. Lora, what precautions have you been taking to help slow the spread of COVID in your clinic? And what has guided you to make those decisions?
Well, we shut down for 2 days when this was all happening initially to do a total deep clean of the clinic. We rearranged so that the tables were as far apart as possible instead of being next to each other. Yeah. And then, of course, we wear masks every day. We have hand sanitizer that people use more often, distributed throughout the clinic. Screening questions when patients walk in, signs on the door so people don't come in if they're having symptoms. But a lot of this has been, guided by the Department of Health, but actually found that we were given more guidance earlier on, and now we've been given a lot less guidance. So some questions, some things have been difficult to make a decision on. So what do you do if somebody has traveled outside of the state? Well, what if they've traveled outside of the country? What if they're vaccinated? What if they're, there's been so many factors that we haven't had really clear guidelines on that. So different businesses have taken different approaches, and we've had to figure that out for ourselves to some degree.
Yeah, and what a place to have not lack of direction and confusion for sure. So Lora, how has the state easing restrictions in the last month changed what you're experiencing at work? Obviously, the lack of direction, we've talked about that. What else?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is the confusion with patients. If you list a mask mandate everywhere, you forget to wear a mask. So people come in without a mask on, and we have to remind them that healthcare facilities still require masks. That's probably been the biggest one.
Yeah. So wrapping up here really quickly with our conversation, Lora, what future business activity or plan are you still holding because of COVID?
Well, I had plans in 2020 to open a third clinic, and obviously that got put on hold. I live in West Seattle, and the West Seattle Bridge going down has changed where I thought I wanted to open that third clinic. I think, continuing education classes that we take to keep our license, some of them I haven't gone to because they're not good online. They're hands-on techniques. So we haven't been doing those classes, or even going out to doctor talks or doctor meetings. Over Zoom has been great, but I really miss contact and face-to-face with our providers.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Lora, I'm glad that you made it through on the other side, and that you're, able to provide the service that you are to people, especially in these times, because as you shared, people needed a lot more. There's a lot more tragedies and health issues that are happening out there. So thank you so much for coming into the show and sharing your information.
Thank you for having me.